You know what's funny? The world doesn't destroy the weak. It just watches them destroy themselves. You think honesty wins? It doesn't. Strategy does. The most dangerous people aren't loud. They're silent, calculating, and 5 moves ahead. They don't seek revenge. They study it. And when they strike, it's not emotion. It's precision. This is what they call dark intelligence, the mindset of people who were once broken, but rebuilt into something untouchable. Welcome to Relentless Lessons, where we teach you how to survive in a world that feeds on the naive. They broke you. Not once, not twice, but every single time you trusted too deeply, believed too easily, or loved too honestly. And every time, you told yourself, maybe this time they'll be different. They weren't. You gave your loyalty like it meant something. You shared your soul like it was safe in their hands. And in return, they gave you lessons, not in kindness, but in calculation. That's where it began, the moment the light went out in your eyes. And something colder, quieter, sharper took its place. You didn't even know it was happening, but your mind was evolving. See, nobody talks about this. The silent transformation that begins when pain becomes too heavy to carry. The day you stop crying and start studying. The day you stop asking why they hurt you and start wondering what they wanted to gain from it. That's the birth of dark intelligence. Not evil, not manipulation, but awareness forged in betrayal. It's what happens when a kind soul gets tired of being used as a lesson for others' selfishness. You begin to observe everything, the tone of their words, the rhythm of their breathing, the delay before their answer. You realize truth doesn't hide in what people say. It hides in what they avoid saying. You stop listening to words and start decoding intent. And slowly, a different kind of clarity takes over. You understand that most people aren't malicious and they're just desperate. Desperate for attention, validation, power, control. They act out of fear, not logic. Out of insecurity, not confidence. You start to see human behavior for what it really is, predictable patterns wrapped in emotion, and suddenly, their manipulation doesn't sting anymore. It becomes data. That's when life introduces you to the first principle of dark intelligence. Calculated opacity, the art of being understood just enough and never fully. You learn that mystery isn't arrogance, it's armor, because the more people know about you, the easier it is for them to control you. So you speak less. You reveal less. You give them fragments, not full pictures. You let curiosity work for you, not against you, because what's hidden is always more powerful than what's explained. Then comes the second evolution. Detachment. The kind that doesn't make you heartless, but unbreakable. You realize you can still love, still care, still connect, without losing control. You can watch chaos and not become part of it. You can say no without guilt, and walk away without needing closure. That's when people begin to misread you. They call you cold, distant, intimidating, but they don't understand your silence isn't anger. It's clarity. You've simply stopped negotiating your peace with people who profit from your confusion, and that's where your power begins to grow. You no longer chase validation. You no longer need to be seen, or liked, or understood. Because when you master silence, you master energy. You learn to make your absence louder than their presence. But don't get it twisted. Dark intelligence isn't about becoming cynical. It's about seeing reality as it is, without illusion, without fantasy. It's about developing psychological night vision, the ability to see through motives, through manipulation, through masks. Because here's the brutal truth. The world doesn't destroy the weak. It simply watches them destroy themselves. Naivety is expensive, and the price is always peace. You begin to remember moments, every betrayal, every dismissal, every time you were underestimated. But now, instead of bitterness, you feel strategy forming. You start to understand that pain wasn't punishment, it was preparation. You needed those lessons to see how people operate when they think you're powerless, because that's when their true nature comes out, in the moments they believe you can't fight. Back and when you finally rise, you carry not just wisdom, but precision. you learn silent leverage. The power of influence without confrontation. You don't threaten, you don't argue, you don't react, you just act. Quietly, decisively, effectively. And when you move like a storm nobody saw coming. That's the moment you become truly dangerous. Not because you seek power, but because you've mastered restraint. You understand that real control is invisible. The loudest one in the room isn't strong, he's afraid. The real power sits in silence, letting others reveal themselves while it listens and waits. And as you evolve, you start to feel detached, not from life, but from illusion. You stop expecting fairness. You stop needing approval. You realize peace isn't found in people. It's found in pattern recognition. Now every experience becomes information. Every disappointment becomes calibration. Every person teaches you something, even the ones who tried to destroy you, because in the end, they didn't destroy you, they designed you. You're no longer driven by emotion. You're guided by awareness. You don't chase attention and you draw it. You don't argue for respect and your presence demands it. And the most satisfying part, you don't even need revenge anymore. Because power, once earned through pain, doesn't need to prove itself. It simply exists. That's when you realize your shadow mind isn't your enemy. It's your evolution. It's the version of you that survived what innocence couldn't. You've stepped into a world where emotions are tools, not traps, where silence is strategy, where your calmness isn't weakness. It's a weapon. And when people look into your eyes now, they sense something different, a stillness that doesn't need validation, a focus that doesn't crave noise, a kind of peace that can only be earned, not taught. That's the birth of the shadow mind. It doesn't make you dark. It makes you aware. And awareness in this world is the only true power. Because once you see the game for what it really is, you stop being a piece on the board and become the one who moves the pieces. Welcome to your awakening. Welcome to Dark Intelligence, the psychology of power, silence, and rebirth. Welcome to Relentless Lessons. Power doesn't appear. It's constructed, brick by brick, scar by scar, silence by silence. And every strong mind that walks this earth has built its own invisible architecture, not of muscles or wealth, but of psychological structure. They call it manipulation. We call it strategy. Because the truth is, if you don't shape perception, perception will shape you. You've already been awakened. Now you learn how the structure is made. 8 traits. 8 foundations that turn awareness into influence, silence into command, and pain into dominance. Let's begin. The uncalculated opacity, the power of mystery in a world addicted to oversharing. Silence is rebellion. Every secret you keep increases your value. Because when people can't read you, they can't predict you. And when they can't predict you, they fear you just enough to respect you. You reveal pieces. Never the full portrait. You let curiosity do the talking. That pause before answering. That unread expression, that is your armor. The greatest kings never shouted their plans. They whispered their intentions only to those who'd already proven loyalty. The rest? They were left guessing, and guessing breeds caution. Remember? People can attack clarity, but they can't attack uncertainty. Adaptive persona, the shapeshift of survival. You don't fake who you are. You adjust who they see. In one room, you're humble. In another, confident. In another, quiet enough to make others reveal themselves first. That's not dishonesty. That's emotional geometry. You take the shape of your environment without losing your core. Like water in a different glass. You remain yourself, yet always fit the moment. Because power isn't about dominance. It's about connection. And connection requires translation. The world misunderstands this. They think authenticity means rigidity. But if you never adapt, you'll drown insisting that truth should always sound the same. Real truth changes tone to survive the storm. You need attachment, freedom from strings. Most people never realize how easily they're controlled. Not by power, but by attachment. They chase validation, beg for attention, react to rejection. But once you stop needing, you start leading. Detachment isn't coldness. It's clarity. It means you can care deeply and still walk away when respect dies. You can feel emotion without letting it hijack your decision. When they insult you, you observe. When they praise you, yes, you still observe. Nothing hooks you, that's how you become untouchable. Because the one who can walk away always has the upper hand. Through silent leverage, influence without words. There's a kind of authority that doesn't come from shouting. It comes from presence. The quiet, composed energy that shifts the entire atmosphere. You don't demand respect. You radiate it. Every movement, every pause, every measured breath says, I'm not here to prove. I'm here to choose. People begin to anticipate your reactions. They adjust around you, and without realizing it, you control the rhythm of the room. That silent leverage, the art of guiding outcomes without confrontation. You don't win arguments. You make them irrelevant. 5. Psychological echo. Reflection as power. Every mind carries invisible needs. To be seen, heard, understood. Mirror them, and they'll open their entire world to you. You listen not to reply, but to decode. You reflect their emotions with subtle precision. Their excitement, you amplify it. Their pain, you name it. Their dreams, you mirror them back larger than life. And suddenly, they feel safe with you, loyal to you, even indebted to you. Because the rarest drug in this world isn't love, it's understanding. Master it, and you'll never need to chase attention again. It will orbit around you naturally. Ambiguous morality. The gray crown the world preaches black and white. But leadership lives in gray. Sometimes the right decision feels wrong in the moment. Sometimes mercy creates monsters, and discipline saves them. Ambiguous morality doesn't mean abandoning ethics. It means accepting reality. You do what needs to be done, but never without conscience. You carry both sword and prayer. People won't always understand your choices. That's fine, they're not supposed to. Because morality without wisdom becomes martyrdom. The wise don't choose what's pretty. They choose what works. Controlled exposure. Show, don't surrender, never let them know everything. Reveal your strength in fragments. Like flashes of lightning, you let them see what serves your strategy, competence. Calmness, a glimpse of power, but never enough for them to map your soul. In business, in relationships, in battle, the principle remains. Control perception before perception controls you. The moment people believe they've figured you out, you've already lost leverage, so let them wonder. Let them misjudge. Confusion is camouflage, Chaos 8. Outcome obsession. The eye that never blinks ego wants recognition. Power wants results. The darkly intelligent focus on one thing, outcomes. They don't waste time on arguments, emotions, or proving superiority. They think, does this bring me closer to the goal or distract me from it? Every move is strategic minimalism, doing less, but achieving more. That's why they seem lucky. They're just focused. Obsession is dangerous when blind, but sacred when directed. Because the mind that refuses distraction eventually bends reality to its will. And as you master these 8 foundations, something subtle happens. You stop fighting for attention and start controlling gravity. People feel your energy before you speak. They sense you're not reacting, you're calculating, but remember, this architecture is a weapon that must be aimed with conscience. Use it to protect, not to poison, because power without purpose decays into paranoia. You've seen the naive fall, and you've watched manipulators burn. Now you stand in the middle, neither victim nor villain, the architect who builds his world brick by brick, thought by thought. This is how power is formed, and silently, strategically, relentlessly. The question is no longer, do you deserve control? It's, are you disciplined enough to wield it? Because every trait you master is a blade, and only wisdom decides whether you cut or carve. Welcome to the structure. Welcome to the architecture of power. Welcome to Relentless Lessons. Power gives clarity, but clarity demands isolation. The higher you climb, the thinner the air becomes, and one day, When the noise fades and the crowd stops clapping, you'll realize something terrifying. You've become both the hunter and the ghost. Because true control isn't loud, it's quiet, so quiet that you start hearing the echoes of your own thoughts. And not all of them are kind. They said power is freedom, but they never told you freedom has no one waiting. On the other side. 1. The cost of composure. You've learned not to react. You've mastered silence, but silence, when it grows too deep, begins to feel like a cage. People call you calm, but what they don't see is the war happening underneath that. Calm, you analyze instead of express. You calculate instead of confess, and while others sleep soundly, your mind replays every move, every word, every shift in tone. Because when control becomes instinct, emotion becomes luxury. You don't get to feel anymore. You only get to decide. That's the hidden cost of control. You become so focused on protecting your peace that you forget how to live inside it. 2. The illusion of superiority. The world starts seeing you differently. You're not one of them anymore. You're above, detached, untouchable. They praise your discipline, your logic, your focus, but deep down they fear you. And the truth is, you start fearing yourself too, because the more powerful you become, the harder it is to relate. Normal conversations feel empty. Small talk feels like static. You crave depth, honesty, precision, but all you find are masks talking to masks. So you start playing along, smiling in rooms you've already outgrown, listening to words that no longer move you. And slowly you realize, the cost of being understood is pretending you're still the same. Emotional warfare control isn't just about manipulating others. It's about mastering the chaos inside yourself. Every strong mind carries a storm. Fear, pure desire, grief. And the real war isn't outside. It's internal. When someone disrespects you, you feel the old fire rise, the urge to destroy, to dominate, but you don't. You breathe, you wait, you redirect. That's the difference between the weak and the wise. Weakness reacts. Wisdom reconfigures. But make no mistake, each time you swallow that fire, it burns somewhere deeper. And if you don't learn to release it with purpose, it will consume you silently. That's why the strongest men meditate, train, or disappear, because they need a place to bury their storms. 30. The mirror never lies. Every night when the world sleeps, the mirror becomes your only honest enemy. It doesn't care about your titles, your control, your discipline. It reflects what you can't hide. The fatigue behind your eyes, the weight behind your composure. You stare at yourself and wonder, when did I stop being human and start being an idea? Because somewhere between learning power and mastering it, you forgot what vulnerability felt like. But here's the secret they never tell you. Vulnerability isn't weakness, it's balance. It's the reminder that control is only sacred when paired with compassion. If power is a sword, then empathy is the hand that decides whether to strike or save. Without it, every victory turns hollow. 5. The loneliness of the lion. You've noticed it, haven't you? The more disciplined you become, the fewer people you can relate to. You talk less because few understand. You trust less because too many disappoint. And somehow, strength becomes solitude. But here's the paradox. Every lion walks alone, not because he hates the jungle, but because he sees it differently. He's not chasing noise. He's listening for patterns. He's not desperate for company. He's building legacy. So when loneliness knocks, don't treat it as punishment. Treat it as proof that you're evolving beyond dependency. But never let it harden you completely. Because if power builds walls, only empathy builds doors. 6. The fear of falling control is addictive. Once you taste it, chaos feels unbearable. You start micromanaging everything, your reactions, your words, your environment, and one day you realize you're no longer living spontaneously. You're living strategically. Every moment becomes a calculation. Every relationship becomes a negotiation. And somewhere deep inside, the fear grows. What if I lose control? But here's the truth that separates the wise from the paranoid. You never had control. You only learned to navigate unpredictability. Rio. Power isn't about forcing outcomes. It's about staying unshaken when they don't go your way. Control isn't ownership, it's alignment. You don't dominate the wave. You learn to surf it. 7. The hidden lesson. The final truth of control is paradoxical. The moment you stop clinging to it, you master it. When you stop fearing uncertainty, you become the calm within it. When you stop proving your strength, it multiplies quietly. When you stop trying to control people, they start aligning naturally. Because power, in its purest form, isn't about holding, it's about understanding. The mirror doesn't judge, it only reflects. And once you face it without fear, you stop pretending to be powerful and finally become it. So tonight, when you stand before that mirror, don't look for perfection, look for honesty. Because the true master isn't the one who controls everything, but the one who understands that control begins and ends within. And as the reflection stares back, you'll whisper the words that define the relentless mind. I am not what happens to me. I am what I choose to remain after it happens. Welcome to the mirror of control. Welcome back to Relentless Lessons. They say fear kills dreams. They're wrong. Fear doesn't kill dreams. Ignorance of fear does, because fear is not your enemy. It's your most honest teacher. It's the mirror that never lies. The whisper that warns you before the world does. And until you learn to face it, not with courage, but with curiosity, you'll never truly know power. 1. The truth. Beneath the panic, when fear enters the mind, most people fight it. They resist, deny, or run. But that's like trying to punch a shadow. The more you swing, the darker it grows. Fear only grows stronger when you pretend it's not there. Real power begins when you sit in silence with your panic and ask it, "What are you trying to tell me?" That's what the masters do. They don't fight their demons and they interview them, because behind every fear is a message. Here lies the part of you that still believes you're not ready. Once you listen, the panic fades. Once you understand, the fear transforms. Fear doesn't vanish, it evolves into focus, and focus builds empires. 2. The architecture of fear has structure. It's not chaos, it's design. Every fear hides 3 layers. The surface fear, what you say you're afraid of. I'm afraid of failing. I'm afraid of rejection. The core fear, what truly drives it. I fear being seen as unworthy, powerless, or forgotten. The root fear, the ancient one. I fear I'll lose control over my destiny. Most people never reach the root. They stay trapped in the surface. They treat symptoms, never the source. But those who dig deep, those who confront the root, they stop being manipulated by invisible strings. They learn that fear is not the enemy. Fear is the compass. It points directly to the next part of yourself you must master. You'll be turning fear into a weapon. There's a secret the world's strongest minds share. They all feel fear, constantly. But instead of hiding it, they refine it. They channel it into precision. A soldier feels fear before battle. An entrepreneur feels fear before risk. A leader feels fear before truth. But they act, not because they're fearless, but because they've learned to weaponize fear. They turn it into heightened awareness. A razor-sharp alertness that cuts through noise and illusion. Fear keeps them alive, sharp, awake. It's not weakness, and it's a signal, a sign that something sacred is at stake. When fear hits you next time, don't drown in it, stand still, listen, because that trembling you feel, it's the body preparing to evolve. Before fear as the great equalizer. No one escapes fear, not the rich, not the powerful, not the wise. Every human, no matter how evolved, still faces it in silence. That's what makes fear the ultimate equalizer. But here's the difference. The weak see fear as a wall. The strong see it as a door. The wall stops you, the door transforms you. When you decide to walk through it, even shaking, even bleeding, you earn something no one can take away, self-trust. And once you trust yourself, no rejection, failure, or betrayal can truly break you again. Because fear stops controlling you the moment you realize you've already survived worse than what you're afraid of. In the fear of power itself, there's one fear greater than failure. The fear of what happens if you actually succeed, because power changes everything. It isolates. It exposes. It demands responsibility. Most people sabotage their success, not because they doubt the goal, but because they're afraid of who they might become if they reach it. They say, "What if I lose it?" But the real question is, what if I finally have no excuses left? That's the fear few ever face. To master fear, you must accept power and the loneliness it brings. Because once you see yourself clearly, you can't unsee it. Once you taste greatness, you can't pretend mediocrity satisfies you. That's why fear of power is the final test, the fire that burns away who you were so you can become who you're meant to be. Gimimsi 6, the sacred paradox. Here's the paradox most never understand. The goal isn't to destroy fear, it's to respect it. Because fear isn't the enemy of courage, it's the origin of it. Without fear, bravery has no meaning. Without danger, mastery has no depth. The fearless man isn't brave and he's numb. But the man who shakes and still moves forward, he's unstoppable. So when your voice trembles, when your hands shake, when your heart races, don't curse it. That's your evolution speaking. That's your biology updating. That's your system saying, you're exactly where you need to be. Give the final awakening if you've made it here. You've walked through the entire spectrum of dark intelligence. Pain, control, power, fear. Now understand this. Fear will never disappear, but it will stop ruling you. It will become your ally, a silent partner reminding you to stay awake. Stay humble, stay hungry, because real mastery isn't found in peace. It's found in the balance between chaos and calm. You won't always feel ready. You won't always feel fearless. But if you can move forward despite that, you've already won. That's the essence of dark intelligence. Not to become untouchable, but to become unbreakable. When fear whispers, listen. When pain speaks, learn. When power tempts, stay grounded. Because the dark doesn't exist to destroy you. It exists to train you. And those who dare to walk through it don't come out fearless. They come out free. Welcome to the end of fear and the beginning of awareness. This is Relentless Lessons, and your transformation has just begun.